advocating for the needs of the residents who live in their wards and who have just done an outstanding job, especially through COVID, of ensuring that we were able to provide resources to the community during these really challenging times. So with that, I'm going to ask first Councilmember Robinson and then Councilmember Joyce Love to say a few words.
Thank you so much, Mayor, and thank you so much for your commitment to equity. And also thank you for your partnership with us and changing the narrative in our community. And also to Councilwoman Joyce Love, you know how we roll. Councilwoman Love has been an excellent partner, and we've been tag teaming to address many of the concerns of the 3rd and the 5th wards here in the city. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And so this is an exciting and crucial step in the process to address the current needs and also anticipate the future needs of our community. And we want to ensure that every single voice is heard and that the community drives this process. So I encourage the residents, community leaders, and even our businesses in West Hill to attend the meetings and also complete the survey. There is no idea that's going to be too big and no idea that's going to be too small. And we want this to be a process to where we measure twice and cut once. We want to make sure that the community has input, that the community drives this process, and so that we can begin to change the narrative with this community center in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Joyce Love. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. I call him Rev. I just want to touch on the senior part. We have a lot of seniors throughout the area where Councilman Robinson and myself represent, with nothing to do, and especially my seniors at 45 Central Avenue. When COVID came and everything stopped, even some meals, they had nothing to do. They couldn't even use the community room. They couldn't even go out where they usually go, where they play some music and listen to some music and plant their flowers. So my part is I'm going to make sure our seniors are aware that we have 3 dates coming up, as the mayor stated, and they are June the 8th at Swinburne Park, Saturday, June 12th at Black Lives Matter Park, and Friday at Albany Victory Garden. My part would be to get my seniors there. I will just talk to the mayor's office about getting flyers made up. I'll make sure my seniors get one in their hand. I will provide transportation. It's a great need for this, and when I go visit my seniors at 45 Central Avenue, because that's where most of them are, they always say, Ms. Love, we don't have nothing to do. We got something for you coming up very soon. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And one of the things that I want to stress is that this has been something that has been in the planning for a really long time. The need has been obvious for years. The need was there before I became mayor. But one of the things that we believe is really important in our commitment to equity is that when we make promises, we make them when we're able to keep them. And so we went from being the most fiscally stressed city in the state to, getting ourselves into a position financially that we felt comfortable making the commitment to the West Hill community, that not only could we build a community center, but we can operate a community center. And that's the thing that's critically important. We need to make sure that as we imagine and reimagine with the community about the resources that we want, that we have the ability and the fiscal stability to then be able to support that in the long term. And that's one of the things that we know has impacted community centers and services and places across the country when there's a lot of hoopla around building something, but then the funding isn't there to actually operate it. So I want to make something really clear, is that we moved forward with this planning process when we knew that we were in a position to be able to fund it and operate it. And notwithstanding COVID, which were some rocky times there, it was a little scary. We weren't sure about what the future of the city was going to be, but obviously with the rescue plan funding replacing our lost revenue, we're still in that position to be able to deliver on this promise. So we're looking forward to the community's input. You know, we've heard from a number of people, but I think it's really important that we make sure that as many people can make their voices heard as possible, and that we're really transparent about that input and what that input looks like and sounds like, so that you know, we're able to then, when we go and build something, we're able to say to the community, yes, this was the consensus of what everybody said they wanted.
Mayor, I'm not sure I heard anything about a timetable and there might be a ribbon cutting.
So, you know, we're doing this process through the early part of the summer. We have a contract with the facilitator who's helping to make this happen, and they actually have the ability to then design based on that. And so, Brian, remind me, when are their plans due?
So we're hoping to have something like late fall, like a full deliverable, but again, it's kind of a fluid timeline, but it'll be this year.
Yeah. So we're looking to have those plans in place. You know, we would be looking as we go into the 2022 budget to ensure that we have the capital funds available to support the project.
And this is a question, Mayor, for you or for me with the council members. Are you sensing, based on conversations you may have had with any of the Westville residents, that there might be trepidation, there might be fear to leave their home, to go to a community center, given the uptake in violence?
No, I mean, I think what we're hearing is that people want a community center. They want a place where they feel safe and where they feel supported and where they feel they have access to the types of services and activities for themselves and for their kids. And so, you know, this summer, one of the things that we're looking at is how do we provide community center type activities, you know, while we're waiting to build a community center. So, you know, the basketball league that we're starting, we've reached out to community organizations saying, we'll provide you funding if, you know, you want to do a series of events for moms in the area, or, you know, events for those, for our seniors. So, you know, there are no bad ideas. If somebody wants to provide Zumba in Black Lives Matter Park, we have funding available, and we want to be able to provide those types of activities. We want people to come out. We want to ensure that we're creating that safety. You know, when you have you know, families who are able to access these types of amenities, you know, that it is a deterrent of violence in and of itself. And that's one of the things that we really have to commit to, is creating an environment where violence is not, you know, there isn't going to be the opportunity for violence in the neighborhood. And that's what we're trying to achieve.
And what about transportation for seniors who might not have transportation, even if it's only a couple of blocks away? What provisions might there be? I
have no doubt that Councilmember Love will make sure that we provide for that. But do you want to say anything?
Yes. Tina Allen, who's the tenant association at 45 Central Avenue, Townsend Home, and myself will provide transportation. If I have to lean on the mayor every now and then, I will, but we will provide transportation for the people in the senior home. And around the surrounding areas also. I'll make sure that my seniors partake in this. I want to make sure of that.
So you never knew that by becoming a council member, you would also become an Uber driver?
And a senior also. I'm a senior. Thank you.
Mayor, a 15-year-old girl was killed not far from here just a few days ago, and this community is reeling from that right now. Yesterday, you commented that people involved in gun violence would be prosecuted severely. I want to know, I mean, that comment, was there a conversation about that with the DA? And I mean, was that a real? Is that real? Are you able to prosecute people severely?
No. What I said was we will be asking the district attorney to prosecute these cases to the maximum extent that is permitted under the law. And when I say that under the umbrella that we have of our GVI initiative. So our group violence involved initiative includes partners from the U.S. Attorney's Office, from the District Attorney's Office, and from, state resources. And that group meets, and when we have individuals who are involved in this type of violence, that communication occurs that these are people that we are very, very, very interested in, right? These are the individuals that we want to receive our full attention. So that's it's already been built in. It's something that, we talk about, and that the GVI group has been talking about since that program started several years ago. And that's the purpose of that program, to be able to say that if you are involved in violent activity involving guns, involving groups, you will have the full attention of law enforcement. And by law enforcement, we not only mean those who are going to arrest you, but those who are going to prosecute you. So that's what I meant by that. It's part of our GVI initiative.
Thank you. Have you spoken with the family of Destiny Green?
I have. I've spoken to her mother. These are phone calls that no mayor wants to make, and no family wants to receive. The trauma that her family is experiencing, the loss that they've experienced is devastating. And, this is something that impacts her family the hardest and the most. And I think it is really difficult when that is also happening, with a lot of media attention associated with it. So I try to give families space for themselves and to encourage them to really make sure that they are taking care of themselves. But then also we do have to speak to the broader community, the pain that this causes in her, Destiny's school community, among her friends, among the community that lives in and around the area where this violence occurred. These are traumas, and this is the type of impact that a single bullet can have, far beyond the impact, that of just the victim. We talk about victims, but as a city, we think about all of the victims of this, and everyone in our community is impacted when violence erupts in our community. That's why mayors across the country, we met a week ago. We had a summit, the U.S. Conference of Mayors. We're frustrated. We're angry. And there are too many guns on our streets. And we need to come together as a country and address this culture of gun violence. And, we want to see these guns stop. We want to see these guns stopped from even coming into our community. There's legislation on the federal level to address loopholes, but as strong as our gun laws are here in New York State, we have states that do not have those same strict gun laws, and so there are ways that these guns are clearly finding their way into our community. It's unacceptable. And so when I talk about speaking to law enforcement, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the partnership that we have with the District Attorney's Office, with the U.S. Attorney's Office. The representatives that they have working on our gun violence initiative are truly committed to working to ensure that we're all working together to prevent gun violence.
The community is looking to you right now in your administration to make the community more safe. Is the answer putting officers walking on the street in these communities? Is it cracking down and taking a harder stance against crime? What do you believe the answer is? And do you think that you're doing enough? Some people say your administration is not.
Well, I would say that our administration is using all of the resources that are available to us to address a tragic issue that is plaguing our community, that's unacceptable in our community, and plaguing communities across the country. And I think that we all have to come together to look at what is driving this uptick in gun violence that we've seen over these last 18 plus months. Under my leadership, we went 18 months without a single homicide in this city. So this is not something that I think is completely within any control. We were doing, the things that we're doing now are things that we were doing when we didn't have a single homicide for more than a year. So, what is the difference now? I think we all know the answer to some of the answers to that. We have seen, an unprecedented pandemic that has frayed communities, frayed people's lives, frayed their relationships. We have seen a huge surge of guns coming into our community, and we have to ensure that we're coming together as we move out of this pandemic to provide and to address all of the traumas that people have experienced throughout this pandemic. And that takes our community-based organizations coming together. It also means law enforcement, absolutely. Our schools have been out. So, all of these things that make up the fabric of our society, there isn't a single one that hasn't been touched by this pandemic. And I think what it really says is that, us being together and in community with one another matters. The things that we were doing before COVID were working. The things that we were doing and the workforce development, the summer youth employment program, expanding our recreation programs, the things that are under the city's control, were working. And so we have to move back to ensuring that we're providing those and that we're listening to the community about what other resources that they need, because not everybody started COVID from the same place. And we have to ensure that we're doing all that we can to address those inequities as we recover.
What would you say to people who, they see the outside forces coming in, I guess the sheriff's office, the state police, Senator Law and Justice issued a statement, Albany does not need occupying forces. What do you say to reassure people that these outside forces are here to help, not to harm?
Yeah, we addressed that yesterday, and I think what we're hearing overwhelmingly from people who live in West Hill is that they want to see more police officers. And they want for our officers who are in the community to be part of the community, right? To get out of their vehicles, to get to know the residents who are living there. And so I know we heard that from the police chief, and it was something that I had addressed as well, is that we have to ensure that law enforcement recognizes and sees that they are there to protect and serve. And our residents need to see and feel as though they are being protected and served. And that happens when we're able to have that interaction. So it is important that we do that, but it is also important that we address the demands that we are hearing from our residents living in these impacted communities, that they want police vehicles there. They believe that those police vehicles are a deterrent to the types of crime that has been happening in their neighborhoods. And so that's the commitment that we have, and it's what we work towards every day.
Well, is there a plan that says X amount of officers will be at this intersection, like First and Quail, where we've seen a number of shootings in the last year? And can you promise people that a cop will be sitting on their street overnight right now?
So the police department has a deployment plan for that area, for other areas, and it is based on where this violence is happening, and it is designed to ensure that we're doing all that we can to deter violence. I also think it's important that we recognize that we have to get these guns off the street, and gun buybacks, while there is data that shows that gun buybacks do not work, there is also research that shows that when the ask for those gun buybacks come from the community, that there have been successes. So that's another step that we need to take as we move forward, is to determine the community leaders and those who we're reaching out to and talking to. We have a violence reduction task force that is hard at work, that has assembled a lot of really good research, evidence-based data around interventions that work. And you're going to be seeing announcements of that over the next, several days and weeks to ensure that we're doing all that we can, but that we're doing it in a way that is listening to the community. What we've heard, we need to listen to the people living in these impacted areas to ensure that we're doing all that we can to make them feel safe and to keep them safe.
So like First and Quail, if I go there, will I see that visible police presence?
Yes, you will see visible police presence in and around First and Quail. And again, it's about the balance between having a car sit there and having police officers in the area, walking the block, and talking to people. That's what the community wants.
Thank you.